He hath not dealt so with any nation. That's what the Most High means in Amos 3 and 1. When it said he does Israel only as he known. He does know the other nation. Why? The other nation never got this Bible. The Most High never gave them the laws, statutes, and commandments. They might have known it by being aware of Israel and observing how we interact with the Most High and being around us and associating with us directly or indirectly. But as far as the scriptures went, our scriptures goes, the Most High never gave this Bible to any other nation but the Hebrew Israelites.
Come on.
Understand? That's why the Most High said, you only have I known of all the families of this earth. Read on.
He hath not dealt so with any nation. And as for his judgments, they have not known them.
And as for his judgment, what are judgments? Judgments are punishment for breaking the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments. Obviously, if the nations did not get the laws and commandments, then their judgment is not going to be the way Israel was judged. Because our judgment now was a direct punishment for breaking his laws, statutes, and commandments, which we are serving right now. We're in the judgment right now. We've been in the judgment for the past 400 years or so. That was what slavery was about. Understand? For breaking the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments. But the other nations, they've been doing abominable things. Their judgment is reserved for the end. We're talking about Armageddon. Understand? We're talking about them going into a position of servitude, slavery under the Hebrew Israelite. That's going to be the ultimate judgment. They're just piling up for the very end. Read.
Praise ye the Lord.
Yeah, can go back to Isaiah 45 now. Read 4 again, go to 5. Go down to 5.
Isaiah chapter 45, verse 4. For Jacob, my servant's sake, and Israel, my elect, I have even called thee by thy name.
Right, so the Most High is making himself known to Cyrus the first, king of Persia, for the sake of Jacob. Read.
I have surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me. I am the Lord, and there is none else.
Right, so the Most High let him know, hey, there is no other power besides me. Read.
There's no power beside me. I girded thee, though thou hast not known me, that they may know from the rising of the sun and from the west, there is none beside me. I am the Most High, and there is none else. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I am the Most High, do all things.
Can. Now, get me also Ezra chapter 1. Ezra. In the Bible, yeah. Ezra. So this prophecy that the Most High made to Isaiah concerning Cyrus, this was basically about 700 or so BC. Understand? 700 or so BC. Ezra 5:1. Ezra chapter 1, rather. Read on. Read. Verse 1.
The book of Ezra, chapter 1, verse 1. Now, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled.
Right. Remember that word that Moses spoke to Jeremiah? That 70 years shall be fulfilled. Can. 70 years shall be accomplished in Babylon, then they shall be returned to Israel. Okay. So right now the Most High, now in the first year of Cyrus, this is not the same Cyrus we just read about in Isaiah 45. The Cyrus we read about in Isaiah 45 was Cyrus the first. No, this is his son, Cyrus the Great. Understand? Okay, now this, in the first year of Cyrus, the king of Persia, that the word of the Most High by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled. Read.
The Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and put it also writing, saying, "Thus saith Cyrus, king of Persia."
Right. So the Most High stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, the great king of Persia, to make a proclamation through all his kingdom, and put this proclamation in writing. So it's official. Read.
Thus saith Cyrus, king of Persia, the Most High God of heaven have given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he hath charged me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is there among you of all his people?
Right. So the Most High Cyrus, the great king of Persia, know that what? The Lord, the power of heaven, hath given me all the kingdom of the earth. And he has charged me to build him an house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. So Cyrus is aware that the Most High has given them a responsibility to have the temple rebuilt. Because we all know the Babylonians destroyed the temple in 586 BC. Understand? So that the temple has to be rebuilt to fulfill the prophecy that the Most High made to Jeremiah, which we read in Jeremiah 29:10, that we should be in Babylon for 70 years. So we were in Babylon for 70 years. So this time, it's era of time right now that Cyrus the Great is about to fulfill the prophecies 538 BC. That's when all the 12 tribes were released. So you could add 70 years to that, basically. So we were in Babylon to what? From 608 BC. Understand? Read.
Who is there among you of all his people? His power be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build the house of the Most High, power of Israel. He is the Most High, which is in Jerusalem, and whosoever remaineth in any place where he sojourneth, let the men of his place help him with silver, and with gold, and with goods, and with beasts, beside the free will offering for the house of the Most High, that is in Jerusalem. Then rose up the chief of the fathers of Judah and Benjamin, and the priests, and the Levites, with all them whose spirit the Most High had raised up, to go up to build the house of the Most High, which is in Jerusalem.
Right. So this Cyrus the Great, he ruled from about 550 to 530 BC. Understand? So you release the Israelites, all 12 tribes, 538 BC. Okay, and the men of the Levites, the Benjamites and the Judites, certain of them went back to Jerusalem to start it in the rebuilding of the temple, as per the prophecy that the Mosai made. Okay, so now this Cyrus the Great, he died in 530 BC, and he was succeeded by his son, known as Cambyses, Cambyses, Cambyses II. Understand? And he ruled from 530 to 22, 530 exactly after his father. He succeeded his father, and he ruled from 530 to 522 BC. Now get Ezra chapter 4. Yeah, verse 1.
The book of Ezra, chapter 4, verse 1. The book of Ezra, chapter 4, verse 1. Now when the adversities of Judah...
Read it again. Adversaries.
Now when the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin heard that the children of the captivity builded the temple unto the Most High power of Israel, then they came to Zerubbabel and to the chief of the fathers, and said unto them, let us build with you, for we seek your power, as ye do, and we do sacrifice unto him, since the days of Ashurhadad, king of Ashur, which brought us up hither. But Zerubbabel and Jeshua and the rest of the chiefs of the fathers of Israel said unto them, ye have nothing to do with us to build a house unto our power, but we ourselves together will build unto the Most High power of Israel, as King Cyrus, the king of Persia, have commanded us.
Right. So when these other nations round about us heard that, hey, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi was now going up to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple. Of course, they came out trying to be deceitful, trying to pretend that they want to be down with us to partake in the rebuilding of the temple, because they also, was making sacrifices to the Mosai as if they acknowledged the Mosai. But we realized that they were being deceitful, so we rejected their offer. And instead we rejected the offer and said, you have nothing to do with us, man. We don't need your help. We know you don't believe in our power. You're idol worshippers, so I don't accept your offer to assist us. So we're just going to proceed as per the commandment that we got from Cyrus the Great, as per the prophecy that the Most and the spirit that the Most High put upon Cyrus to release us, so we can accomplish that and the mission and the prophecy, and fulfill the prophecy that he made to Jeremiah, that we should only spend 70 years in Babylon, the southern kingdom. Read.
Verse 4. Then the people of the land weakened the hands of the people of Judah and troubled them in building.
Yeah, man, they did everything they could to sabotage the process, man. Everything they possibly could. Read on.
And hired counselors against them to frustrate their purpose all the days of Cyrus, king of Persia, even until the reign of Darius, king of Persia.
They did everything on the sabotages to prevent the building. See, first they're trying to pretend they wanted to help us. We caught on to them that we were being deceitful, so we rejected the offer. But since we rejected the offer, they did everything possible. They hired counselors, men that would go to Cyrus and to speak negatively about Israel, and to prevent all the funding of all that, to prevent the laborers and all that. Whatever possible, they did organized. They made an organized effort to prevent us from building the temple. Read.
And in the reign of Ahasuerus, in the beginning of his reign.
See, they did that from the time of Cyrus, 538 BC, until he died in 530, and they did it even in time of Cambyses the second, his son, which was about 530 to 522 BC. I mean, so that's a long time. That's the whole process was slowed down during this Cambyses rulership, and the whole thing proceeded. The whole thing got delayed until Darius the Great came into rulership, which was 522 BC. After Cambyses the second died. Read.
And in the reign of Ahasuerus, in the beginning of his reign, wrote they unto him an accusation against the inhabitants of Judah and Jerusalem. And in the days of Artaxerxes.
Okay.
Wrote Bishlam, Mithridam, Merithidath, Tabiel, and the rest of their companies unto
companions.
The rest of their companions unto Artaxerxes, king of Persia. And the writings of the letter was written in Syria, in the Syrian tongue, and the interpreter in the Syrian tongue, Reham the chancellor, and Shimsha the scribe wrote a letter against Jerusalem to Artaxerxes the king in this sort. Then wrote Reham the chancellor and Shimsha the scribe and the rest of their companions, the Dinatites and the Arphaxades.
Artaxerxes.
You know where I am, right? Verse 9.
Verse 8. Okay, yeah. You just finish. Okay, you just finish 8.
Oh yeah, I just finished 8.
I'll read, huh? Okay.
Oh no, I'm in verse 9.
Huh?
I'm in verse 9.
You're 9, right?
Yeah. Our far sights. Our far sights.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh man. Maybe simpler names like Michael or Duke. Something like that. Are the Archivites and the Babylonians and the Susanites, the Dehavites and the Elamites, and the rest of the nations whom the great and noble as Napar brought over and set in the cities of Samaria, and the rest that are on this side the river, and at such a time. This is the copy of the letter that they sent unto him, even unto Artaxerxes, the king, thy servants, the men on this side the river, and at such a time, be it known.
See, basically, even after the temple was built, because the temple was built during the time of Darius the Great. Darius the Great ruled from like 522 to 486 BC. And the temple was finished built in 516 BC. And it's in the time of Darius the Great. So what we're reading about right here is even after Darius the Great. Even after the temple was built, they were still opposing Israel. Were rebuilding of the city of Jerusalem in general, beside the temple, because the temple had been neglected. It was destroyed. It wasn't just the temple that was destroyed. Basically, other infrastructure of the city was destroyed. Was neglected during that 70-year period. So now Israel is trying to rebuild not only the temple but the city in general. Understand? And they're getting a lot of opposition from the different nations. Even after Darius, you see the complaint to Ahasuerus, who came after Darius. Ahasuerus. We're gonna go into Esther to read about Ahasuerus. His name was also known as Exorcist. Yeah. Understand? When we read the book of Esther, we're gonna see. So even during this time, the rulership of the different kings, successors of different kings, the nation was protesting against Israel, man. Just like to this day, all the all the nations are protesting against Israel in one way or another. When the different ethnic groups and races that come over here to America, where we are, they were briefed. You know what I'm saying they have this negative perception of who we are. Understand? And basically, they're all opposed to us, just like back in the days. Read on.
Verse 12. Be it known unto the king that the Jews which came up from thee to us are come unto Jerusalem, building the rebellious and the bad city.
Building the rebellious and the bad city. That's a label they're trying to put on Israel. Rebellious mean what? We don't want to take orders from any nations. Read.
Building the rebellious and the bad city, and have set up the walls thereof, and joined the foundations. Mm-hmm. Be it known now unto the king that if this city be built and the walls set up again, then will they not pay toll, tribute, and custom, and so thou shalt damage the revenue of the kings.
Right. See, let us know here. If these Hebrews, like these Jews, ever get a chance to rebuild the cities, just build their city, just like they was before, and get strengthened again, they're going to rebel against you. They're not going to pay you the tolls and the tributes that they're supposed to pay you. Understand? And your revenue is going to diminish. That's what they're basically telling the king. Be aware that's what's going to happen if you allow these rebellious people, the Hebrew Israelites, the Jews, to build up this bad city as they label us. Read.
Now because we have maintenance from the king's palace, and it was not meet for us to see the king's dishonor. Therefore have we sent and certified the king, that search may be made in the book of the records of thy fathers. So shalt thou find in the book of the records, and know that this city is a rebellious city, and hurtful unto kings and provinces, and that they have moved sedition and within the same of the old time, for which cause was this city destroyed?
Yeah, so they're trying to bring to the king, ruler of Persia, our history. You know, of course, the history of our of Hanukkah, our rebel against the Greeks, and we fought them and destroyed them, defeated them and reclaimed the temple. Our history of coming out of Egypt, our fought against a different nation in the wilderness. All those things we are trying to bring into remembrance of how we destroyed the nation round about us when we first went to our homeland. We had garrisons in there. David slew so many people of the different nations that he had so much blood in his hand. The Most High didn't want to build a temple. All those things which are the history of our people, which they're trying to bring into remembrance to the king, so they could have giving the king a bad report against us, so they could stall the rebuilding of our city. Read.
We have certified the king that if this city be built again, and the walls thereof set up by this means, thou shalt have no portion on this side the river. Then sent the king an answer unto Rehum the chancellor, and to Shimshai the scribe, and to the rest of their companions that dwell in Samaria, and unto the rest beyond the river, peace. And at such a time the letter which ye sent unto us have been plainly read before me, and I commanded it, and search have been made, and it is found that this city of old time have made insurrection against kings, and that rebellion and sedition have been made therein. There have been mighty kings also over Jerusalem, which have ruled over all countries beyond the river, and toll, tribute, and custom was paid unto them. Give ye now commandment to cause these men to cease, and that this city be not builded until another commandment shall be given from me. Take heed now that ye fail not to do this. Why should damage go to the hurt of the kings? Now when the copy of King Artaxerxes' letter was read before Rehum and Shemaiah the scribe and their companions, they went in haste to Jerusalem unto the Jews, and made them to cease by force and power. Then ceased the work of the house of the Most High, which is at Jerusalem. So it ceased unto the 2nd year of the reign of Darius, king of Persia.
Right. So ever since Cyrus, the Great gave proclamation of permission for Israel to build the temple and the city. I'm saying all the nation went about up been protesting to different kings, man, to stop the temple from building. Even though the temple got built in 516 BC, but now they continue to protest against the Israel to prevent the rebuilding of the infrastructure and so on of the city at large. Right now, let's just jump to chapter 6.
Book of Ezra, chapter 6, verse 1. Then Darius the king made a decree, and search was made in the house of the Thuros, where the treasures were laid up in Babylon. And there was found at Armetha in the palace that is in the province of the Medes a roll, and therein was a record thus written. In the 1st year of Cyrus the king, the same Cyrus the king made a decree concerning the house of the Most High at Jerusalem. Let the house be builded, the place where they offer sacrifices, and let the foundation thereof be strongly laid. And the height thereof 80 cubits, and the breadth thereof 80 cubits, with 3 rows of great stones, and a row of 3 new timber.
Right, now jump to verse 15.
Verse 15. And this house was finished on the 3rd day of the month of Adar, which was in the 6th year of the reign of Darius the king.
Right, so this right we're talking about is 516 BC. Okay, that's when the second temple was built. Okay, so that was in the time of Darius the Great. Darius the Great ruled from 522 BC to 486 BC. Understand? Okay, and that temple was built 70 years after it was destroyed. Destroyed in 586 BC, rebuilt in 516 BC. Okay, during the time of Darius the Great rulership. So Darius the Great died in 486 BC, and he was succeeded by Ahasuerus, also known as, let's get to Esther chapter 1. Esther chapter 1. After Darius the Great died in 486 BC, he was succeeded by Ahasuerus. In the scriptures, is known as Ahasuerus. He's also known as Xerxes, Xerxes 1, the first. And he ruled from 486 BC. No, it's in the Bible. I'm sorry, it's like Esther. He ruled from 486 BC to 465 BC. Read.
The book of Esther, chapter 1, verse 1. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus. This is Ahasuerus, which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia, over 107 provinces, that in those days, when the king of Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan the palace, in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his prince and his servants.
Right. So this Ahasuerus, also known as Xerxes, Xerxes the first. Okay. He was a king of Persia and Medes, Persian and Medes, and his territory ruled over 127 provinces. Understand? Provinces, you could I don't know, you call them different states or different territories. Understand? Which extended from India all the way to Ethiopia. That's the length or size of his territory. Okay, okay, that's from 486. That's when he came to power. 486 BC. What did they say? Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, that is, which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia, over 127 provinces. Okay, so what happened was during his reign, there were uprising. There were you know that when you control a large territory, different regions, that regions consist of different countries, different races, different ethnic groups, different territories where you have generals or sub leaders under you who are supposed to be in charge of different territories. And at any given point in time, certain of those territories are going to try to flex their muscles and test you and see if they can break away from your rulership, because these territories, they're supposed to pay tribute to you. Whatever they work, a certain percentage got to go to you because you're ruling. That's the old idea of having them in rule under your subjection. Understand? So he was tested by Egypt. He was tested by Egypt and Babylonia. Okay, so Ahasuerus was tested by Egypt and Babylonia in 486 in 485 BC, and they put them down. They put down the uprising. Understand? That's what it did. So read on now.
Verse 3. In the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his prince and his servants.
So he came into power in 486 BC. Right? So the 3rd year of his reign is what? 483 BC. Understand? 1 year after the uprising. So this peace that is making right now through all his territories is what? In celebration. It's in celebration of his victory over that uprising, and to basically to solidify himself, to promote himself. Hey, I'm in rulership here. I just defeated my enemies, Egypt and Babylonia, in 485 BC, a year ago, and now I'm in a feast. Read.
The power of Persia and Mede, the nobles and prince of the provinces, being before him, when he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellent majesty, many days, even 104 days.
104. What's the score? A score is 20. So 420 is what? 80. So it's 180 days. How long is 180 days? Half a year. Yeah. For 6 months, this guy was showing off. I guess going around his whole territory, showing off his riches and his splendor and all that. I mean, to get fame and solidify his rulership. So what? That's a way of hey, this is what I got. This is what I can do for you. To get loyalty from certain people, or to intimidate certain people, or to impress certain people. to prevent any future uprising against him. That's all part of it. Right? And this was in 483 BC. So we can understand what era of time we're in. Of course, we're still in the Persian and Mede captivity, even though we got released from the captivity in 538 BC, they're still ruling. Understand? They're still ruling right now to 483 BC. Read on.
And when these days were expired, and king made a feast unto all the people that were present in Shushan, the palace, both unto great and small, 7 days in the court of the garden of the king's palace, where were white, green, and blue hangings fastened with cords of fine linen, and purple to silver rings, and pillars of marble. The beds were of gold and silver, upon a pavement of red and blue and white and black marble. And they gave them drink in the vessels of gold, the vessels being diverse one from another, and the royal wine in abundance, according to the state of the king. And the drinking was according to the law. None did compel, for so the king had appointed to all the officers of his house, that they should do according to every man's pleasure.
Right. So there are a great feast, and everything was well decked out. All the banquet halls and all that were decked out, and I was all bashment mode. They wanted feasting, drinking whatever they want to drink, and all the luxurious vessels and all that toward the temple. It's top men, and even down to the lowest. Everybody was partaking in this feast. Read.
Also, Vashti, the queen, made a feast for the women in the royal house, which belonged to the king of Ahasuerus. Ahasuerus.
Right. So even his queen was making a feast for the women. Of the empire. Yeah, they're eating good too. They're feasting too. Read on.
On the seventh day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Miztha, Harbona, and Bigtha, and Abagtha, and Zithar, and Carcass, the 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus, the king, to bring Vashti, the queen, before the king with the crown royal, to show the people, the princess, her beauty, for she was fair to look upon. But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment by his chamberlains. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him.
Right, so this guy was showing off everything. He was showing off his empire, his riches, his glory, his wealth, and all that. His power. His people were loyal to him. And now he want to show off one last thing. He want to show off his wife. He want to show off his wife. He said, damn, look at my wife, man. She bad. Bad. That's a dime. That's my dime piece. Where's my dime at? He want to show up his dime, man. Well, dime piece right there, man. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. They were Elamites. The Persians, the so-called Persians were Elamites. Okay, they're from the lineage of Shem, because Elam are from the lineage of Shem. Elam, yeah, because Persia is modern day Iran. Understand? And that was part of his empire. That's the palace for Shushan. Yeah, I understand. So he wanted to show off his wife, but she dissed him, man. I ain't going. I'm good over here. I'm just chilling with my girls over here. I mean, he over there drinking all, he drunk. You know what I mean?
He drunk.
Yeah, he was feasting. He was merry. People, well, in the seventh day, right? You know, it was on the seventh day when the heart of the king was merry with wine. Yeah, he over there drunk, man. You know, he's gonna embarrass me, so I'm just gonna chill over here with my girls. That's what Vashti was saying. But the king was sober enough to know, hey, I'm being played. I don't appreciate this. I'm looking bad now. I'm in front of all these people, you know, who I'm trying to impress, whose respect I'm trying to get. Now my wife, he ain't gonna show up. Then I make me look like, hey, I'm not in charge here.
Make him look weak.
Make me look weak. So the king was wroth. Read on verse 13.
Then the king said Then the king said to the wise men.
So this basically was about 479 BC. I would say 480, 479 BC. I'm just giving an idea of what the era of time, the timeline. Of course, you know, this is after we got released from the captivity. So we're counting down now. So this is about 480 BC, 479 BC. Then read on, verse 13.
Then the king said to the wise men, which knew the times, for so was the king's manner toward all that knew law and judgment.
Right. Then the king said to the wise men, which knew the time. What does that mean, knew the times? You know what things were. They knew the law. They knew the manner of people. You know, they knew the customs of people. They know how people would react to this. You know, how people would perceive this, and what impression they would have of the king as a result of this disrespect that he just got from his queen Vashti. So he consulted with this man and said, you know, what course of action I should take. How should I deal with this situation? Read.
And the next.
Plus, these men knew the law. Understand how can he do this legally without having some kind of negative reaction from his, you know, from his constituents, from his territory. Read.
Then the king said to the wise men, which knew the times, for so was the king's manner toward all that knew law and judgment. And the next unto him was Karshina, Shethar, Adumatha, Tarshish, Miras, Marsidna, and Mimakan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, which saw the king's face, and which sat the first in the kingdom.
Right, so these are the men of his inner circle and his main counselors. Understand, men who directly under him. You could say these are basically his cabinet. And I'm saying his advisors. These are the men in his immediate circle who he would consult for advice on various matters. Read.
What shall we do unto the queen Vashti according to the law? Because she hath not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus.
Read.
Ahasuerus by the chamberlains. And Mimakan answered before the king and the princess, Vashti, the queen, have not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes and to all the people that are in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus.
Right. So one of his main counselors said, she didn't just diss you, king. She didn't just do wrong unto King Ahasuerus. She disrespected every man of your kingdom. Understand? So this is not just affecting you, it's affecting everybody. To all the people that are in the provinces of the king of Ahasuerus. Read.
It's funny. It made it bad. It made the situation worse. That's right. Funny. For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all the women, so that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes.
Right. So now, if he gets away with this, now the women through the whole province are gonna think that they can do the same thing to their husbands, and I mean, and cause turmoil in their households. Right?
So that they shall despise their husbands in their eyes, when it shall be reported, the king of Hazaras commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not. Likewise shall the ladies of Persia and Media say this day unto all the kings, princes, which have heard of the deed of the queen. Thus shall there arise too much contempt and wrath.
Right. So these women now, when if Vashti gets away with this, they're gonna think they can do the same thing and disrespect their husbands. So what are we gonna do about this? Read on.
If it please the king, let there go a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti come no more before King Hazaras, and let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she.
Right. So that was the decree. That was the counsel that they gave to King Ahasuerus. If it please the king, let it be no more. Let Vashti come no more before you. Understand? Let it be a royal decree. And let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than her. Let the king, whatever she was accustomed to getting, all the privileges of being the queen, that's going to be cut off. And that's going to be given to another woman who's going to be obedient to you. Who's going to, make you look better in the eyes of your provinces, the people of your province. And that was a decree that they came up with. To banish Vashti and find a new wife, a new queen for the king. Right?
Likewise, Salakia.
20, verse 20.
Verse 20. And when the king's decree, which he shall make, shall be published throughout all his empire, for it is great, all the wives shall give to their husbands honor, both to great and small.
Right. So when this decree is distributed, published with all your province, your large province, 127 provinces, then the women are going to honor their husbands again. The famous and rich, down to the lowest of regardless of the status, all the men in their household are going to get respect from the wives. Read.
And the saying pleased the king and the princes, and the king did according to the word of Memucan. For he sent letters into all the king's provinces, into every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language, that every man should bear rule in his own house, and that it should be published according to the language of every people. Right. Chapter 2.
Right. So that was a decree. Vashti shall no more come before the king. She's no more the queen. And there's going to be a search for a new queen for the king. Okay, and that took place in 479, basically 480 BC. Now there's a search now on for a new queen for the king. Read on, chapter 2.
The book of Esther, chapter 2, verse 1. After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus was appeased, he remembered Vashti and what she had done, and what was decreed against her. Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king, and let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shushan the palace, to the house of the women, unto the custody of Higi, the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women, and let their things for purification be given them, and let the maiden which pleaseth the king be queen instead of Vashti. And the thing pleased the king, and he did so. Now in Shushan the palace there was a certain Jew whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jared, the son of Shemai, the son of Kish, a Benjamite, who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity which had been carried away with Jeconiah, king of Judah, from Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away the king, and he had brought up Hadassah, Salakia. He had brought up Hadassah, that is, Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter.
Right. So there was now they give the account of Mordecai, a Benjamite who was carried away from Babylon. I guess it came down from Babylon as a youngster, because right now we have 480 BC. I know they came from Babylon, and I guess in different times. We came in from 600 BC, and then got released 538 BC. So I guess there might have been Israelites who were coming down just before 538 BC. But Mordecai's uncle had his daughter Hadassah called Esther. Understand? That means she was his cousin. She was his cousin, but I guess he was an elder. He was an elder cousin. And her parents had died. I guess they might have been a lot. They might have been in Babylon a long time. They might have been. They were probably of old in age or something like that when they came down. So they might have died from old ages or whatever, from hard labor or whatever. So Mordecai was now her guardian. Understand? Mordecai. I read on. We'll see what transpires. Chapter 8, verse 8.
Yeah. Come. Verse 8. So it came to pass when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together into Shushan the palace to the custody of Hegai, that Esther was brought also unto the king's house to the custody of Hegai, keeper of the women.
So his Hegai was basically over the women servants, or you could say his concubines, or a woman that that do service to Ahasuerus, Xerxes the first. Read.
And the maidens were gathered together unto Shushan the palace to the custody of Hegai, that Esther was brought also unto the king's house to the custody of Hegai, keeper of the women. And the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him, and he speedily gave her things for purification, with such things as belonged to her, and 7 maidens which were meet to be given her out of the king's house, and he preferred her and her maids unto the best place of the house of the women.
So of all these women that were vying for the position of queen, for King Ahasuerus, he preferred Esther. So he just put her ahead of the pack and gave her seven servants to cater to her, and I gave her the best residence and within his palace. So right away she was favored, given preferential treatment. All this is as per the Most High, as we read on, we'll see. Read. Verse 10.
Come on. Esther had not shown her people nor her kindred, for Mordecai had charged her that she should not show it.
Right. So Esther, she didn't reveal that she was a Hebrew Israelite. She didn't reveal that she was a Jew. Mordecai told her now because Mordecai knew all this nation was hating the Hebrew Israelites. How they had complained against us. How they had written letters to the kings and before from way back, complaining against us, trying to give bad reports on us. So Mordecai knew it's wise not to reveal who you are right away. That's another thing right there. That's another thing right there to let you know. Just from her appearance, you couldn't tell. You know what I'm saying? That she was a Hebrew Israelite or a Jew, because basically all the nations are outwardly have a similar characteristics. I understand. It's not like because we all know the ancient Elamites, ancient Persian. I'm saying they're dark-skinned people. If you ever look at the ancient Elamites, people in India and Pakistan, I'm saying they're very dark-skinned people. Understand? So if a Jew, if the so-called Jews live in the land of Israel today, understand? If they were the Jews back then, you could easily identify them. That's how you know. That's how you know that this is not our scriptures. I mean, once you come to knowledge of the truth, that you could infer that the Hebrew Israelites, the real Jews, according to scriptures, or black people. Understand? Because you couldn't distinguish one from the other just by the physical characteristics. You'd have to know them personally, know their history, maybe listen to you get their accent and all that. You know what I'm saying? Watch your mannerism and customs. Understand? So Mordecai told her, don't tell him you were a Hebrew Israelite. Don't tell me you were a Jew. Okay, you know they're hating on us hard. Read.
Verse 11. And Mordecai walked every day before the court of the women's house to know how Esther did and what should become of her. And now, when every maid's turn was come to go into King Ahasuerus, after that she had been 12 months, according to the manner of the women.
See that? Now, verse 12. Now we go to verse 11. And Mordecai walked every day before the court of the woman's house to know how Esther did and what should become of her. So I was keeping an eye on Esther to make sure everything was all right with her. What's going on with her? How are things progressing? And I'm saying, it looks like you found favor in the king's eyes. So I'm just watching to see how you're being treated, understand, and how things are progressing. When you're going to be in the position of a queen. Verse 12 says, now whenever maid's turn was come to go into King Ahasuerus, after that she had been 12 months. So that's so long. 12 months you have to be went through this purification process. So they have to be smelling sweet and all that. You know what I mean? Basically soaking. You can be groomed intellectually. You gotta be in the mannerism, the etiquette. You also hygiene and all that. To be up there, you have to be presentable and all that. Physically, and in every way possible to be on the you could say on the level of a queen. It's not just any random chick acting any kind of way. Yeah, your mannerism has to be of a certain level. But you can basically carry yourself properly. You have to smell properly. You have to purify yourself. Meaning, you got certain incense you got to bathe with and all that to smell a certain way. All those things, man. And that process was a whole month. So basically, we're talking about 479 BC. Read on.
Now, when every maid's turn was come to go into King Ahasuerus, after that she had been 12 months, according to the manner of the women, for so were the days of her purifications accomplished, to wit, 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with sweet odors, and with other things for the purifying of the women. Then thus came every maiden unto the king. Whatsoever she desired was given to her to go with her out of the house of the women unto the king's house. In the evening she went, and on the morrow she returned into the second house of the women, to the custody of Shah-Ashgaz, the king's chamberlain, which kept the concubines. She came in unto the king no more, except the king delighted in her, and that she were called by name.
Right. So after these various women were summoned to the king, if the king didn't appreciate her, didn't choose her, then he wouldn't send for her anymore. He would just send me another woman. Let me see what she's about. Let me see up. You know what I mean? It's like a pageant now at this point. He's gonna, you know what I mean, have a handpick whichever one it pleases him, whichever one gravitates to his spirit or whatever. Read.
Now, when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her for his daughter, was come to go in unto the king, she had required nothing but what Hegai, the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the women, appointed. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all them that looked upon her. So Esther was taken unto the king Ahasuerus into his house royal in the 10th month, which is the month of Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. And the king loved Esther above all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in the sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti.
Right. So the king chose Esther above all the other women and made her queen instead of Vashti. Okay, so now it's official now. She's the queen sitting upon the throne next to the king. Now jump to verse 21. Kind of speed it up a little bit.
Verse 21. In those days when Mordecai...
That was right now we are at 478 BC. That's when Vashti became queen. She became queen of Persia under Ahasuerus, which is also known as Xerxes the First. Read. Verse 21.
In those days while Mordecai sat in the king's gate, two of the king's chamberlains, Bigthan and Teres, of those which kept the door, were wroth and sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus. And the thing was known to Mordecai. He told it unto Esther, the queen, and Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name. And when inquisition was made of the matter, it was found out. Therefore they both hanged on a tree, and it was written in the book of the Chronicles before the king.
Right, so in those days, while Mordecai sat in the king's gate, two of the king's chamberlains, Bertham and Teresh, of those which kept the door, were wroth and sought to lay hands on the king Ahasuerus, and the thing was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen, and Esther. So these men, two of the king's top men, were plotting to kill him. Mordecai became aware of it and told it to Esther. Esther told the king. The king investigated the matter and found him to be guilty, and he had him hung on a tree. Okay, so read on. Chapter 3.
Chapter 3, verse 1. After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the king of Hadmed, a Hamethad, the Agite.
The Agagite. That's basically, Agagite. That's the king. That's the king. The lineage of the king that of Edom, of Amalek ancestry, Amalekite ancestry, who Saul had refused to kill back in the time when the Mosai told Samuel to have this king killed, and Saul spared his life. So this guy is a descendant of that lineage. You know we're talking about the Edomites right there. Read on.
The Agagite, and advanced him, and set his seat above all the princes that were with him. And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence. Then the king's servants, which were in the king's gate, said unto Mordecai, Why transgress thou the king's commandment? Now it came to pass, when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand. For he had told them that he was a Jew.
Right. So this guy, Haman, he was the one who got credit for these two for the death. Was the one who got credit for discovering the plot against Ahasuerus. Understand? And he got promoted for it. And because he got promoted for discovering this plot, now everyone was the king promoted him, so and everyone was supposed to bow to him and pay honor unto him. But Mordecai didn't do that, because Mordecai and they questioned Mordecai in that, and Mordecai say, "Hey, I'm a Hebrew Israelite. I only bow to the Most and the Mashiach Yahushai." You know what I'm saying? And they didn't appreciate that. They didn't like that, especially the Edomites, who have a perpetual hatred for our people. Read.
And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath, and he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had shown him the people of Mordecai. Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai.
See, so when Haman saw that Mordecai wasn't paying him any reverence, wasn't honoring him, he was wroth, man. Plus, they told Haman, "Hey, this guy's a Hebrew, this guy's a Jew." You know these Jews? These are the same Jews who killed your people back in the days. Understand? And that made him mad as hell, man. The same Jews who slaughtered all your people. Understand? So now Haman was plotting not only to kill Mordecai, but to kill all of Mordecai's people, because all this the ancient history of what they did, of what we did to their people, is coming back fresh into his memory. Understand? So now he's plotting to kill Mordecai, not only Mordecai, but all the Hebrew Israelites throughout all the provinces. Read on.
In the first month, that is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast pur, that is, the lot, before Haman from day to day, and from month to month, to the 12th month, that is, the month Adar. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, There is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people, neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore it is not for the king's profit to destroy them.
See that? To suffer them.
It is not the king's profit to suffer them.
Right, to allow them, to tolerate them. So let them know. So he was complaining to the king about Hebrew Israelites. These guys are different, totally different from everybody else in your provinces, in your empire. Their laws are different, and they don't respect you, and they don't keep your commandments. So it's not profitable to you to tolerate them. So basically, we're saying, you need to get rid of these people, man. Read.
If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed. I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those that have the charge of the business, to bring it unto the king's treasuries. And the king took his ring from his hand and gave it unto Haman, the son of Hammedan, that the Agagite, the Jews' enemy. And the king said unto Haman, the silver is given to thee, the people also, to do with them as it seemeth good to thee. Then were the king's scribes called on the 13th day of the first month, and there was written according to all that Haman had commanded unto the king's lieutenants, and to the governors that were over every province, and to the rulers of every people of every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language. In the name of King Ahasuerus was it written, and sealed with the king's ring. And the letters were sent by posts into all the king's provinces, to destroy, to kill, and to cause to perish all Jews, both young and old, little children and women.
Right, now jump to chapter 4. See, basically now it became a law now. But all Hebrew Israelites, all Jews, everyone, literally everyone, elders, male and women, little children, were to be destroyed. They were to be killed throughout all the provinces of his empire. Now jump to chapter 4.
Chapter 4. When Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes and put on sackcloth with ashes, and went out into the midst of the city, and cried with a loud and a bitter cry, and came even before the king's gate. For none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. And in every province, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews, and
right.
Fasting.
Right. So when this became known to the Jews, man, everyone is in mourning now when they see that there was a commandment from the king to bring about the extinction, to bring about their slaughter. So jump to verse 13.
Verse 13. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house, more than all the Jews. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer: Go, gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise.
So Mordecai remind Esther, look, we're going through. You see what's happening, right? There's a decree from your husband, the king, that your people shall be destroyed. Don't think you're any different from us. You're in the same situation that we're in. You're a Hebrew Israelite, a Jew also. So don't think that you're any safer than us. You're in a position now where you may be influential to the king. So as per the spirit of the Most High, you got to see what we can influence the king to bring about our security. So and Esther called all her maids, said, we're gonna fast and pray to the Most High to see what the Most High can deliver us from the situation. Now jump to chapter 5.
Esther, chapter 5, verse 1. Now it came to pass on the third day that Esther put her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's house, over against the king's house. And the king sat upon his royal throne in the royal house, over against the gate of the house. And it was so, when the king saw Esther the queen standing in the court, that she obtained favor in his sight. And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. So Esther drew near and touched the top of the scepter. Then said the king unto her, What wilt thou, Queen Esther? And what is thou request? It shall be even given thee to the half of the kingdom. And Esther answered, If it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him. Then the king said, Cause Haman to make haste, that he may do as Esther hath said. So the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther had prepared. And the king said unto Esther at the banquet of wine, What is thy pension? And petition, and it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? Even the half of the kingdom, it shall be performed. Then answered Esther and said, My petition and my request is, if I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it please the king to grant my petition and to perform my request, let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I shall prepare for them. And I will do tomorrow as the king hath said. Then went Haman forth that day, joyful with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he stood not up nor moved for him, he was full of indignation against Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself, and when he came home, he sent and called for his friends, Zeresh, his wife, and Haman told them of the glory of his riches and the multitude of his children, and all the things wherein the king had promoted him, and how he had advanced him above the princes and servants of the king. Haman said, moreover, Yea, Esther, queen, did let no man come in with the king unto the banquet that she had prepared, but myself. And tomorrow am I invited unto her also with the king. Yet all this availeth me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate. Then says Zeresh his wife and all his friends unto him, Let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak thou unto the king, that Mordecai may be hanged thereof. Then,
right. So there was a banquet now. I mean, and where Haman was invited and all that, give him a lot of respect and all that. He bragged about his accomplishments and all we respected. But of course, Mordecai again didn't show him that honor and respect, but he contained himself and went home to his wife and bragged to his wife about the promotion he got from the king there, and how it was the respect he got from the queen Esther and all that, but complained about Mordecai. He complained about Mordecai. Man, all this means none to me. All this means none to me. If I see this guy, if I see this guy on another day. That's when, guess what his wife said, man? Then said Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends unto him, Let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak thou unto the king, that Mordecai may be hanged thereon. Then go thou in merrily with the king unto the banquet, and the thing pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made. See, That's how you know they them Edomite women are down with it. Just like back in the days when we were hanging us on them gallows. Them Edomites were there in the Edomites women who are children were there in the audience, cheering on the men to lynch us, man. So don't just like today, you see all the Edomites women that you're so quick to call the cops on our people. You want to hold on to that power they had back in the day. That's just a way of reminding them that, hey, we still got the power. We're still in rulership. Understand? So don't think for a minute that the same women are, you couldn't look at it. You couldn't even look at their dress in the damn clothing line. If you come near them, they complain to the white man about on you, man. So this ain't nothing new. So this thing pleased Haman. So the next day he was looking forward to the banquet with Esther. Now jump to chapter 6. Verse 1.
Verse 1. And on that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of records of the chronicles, and they were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus. And the king said, what honor and dignity have been done to Mordecai for this? Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, there is nothing done for him. For the king said, who is in the court? Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him.
Right. So Haman now was this is the spirit of the Most High working right here. Haman was Ahasuerus, Xerxes the first. Now he was on the king Esther's husband. He was now sleeping, and the spirit of the Most High was working on him. So he got up and inquired what was done. What was done? He searched a record to see who had assisted who was the one who discovered the plot to kill him, and realized it was Mordecai. Then he said, what was done to honor Mordecai for this? Nothing was done. Okay, so the king the right away now this Haman was entering the king's palace. Read on.
And the king said, what honor and dignity have been done to Mordecai for this? Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, there is nothing done for him.
Right, nothing was done for Mordecai for this. Verse 4.
And the king said, who is in the court? Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him.
So now this guy Haman, man, was now going to the king to get permission to hang Mordecai on these gallows that they prepared for him. Read on.
And the king's servants said unto him, behold, Haman standeth in the court. And the king said, let him come in. So Haman came in. And the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor? Now Haman thought in his heart, to whom will the king delight to do honor more than to myself?
So right now, Haman was so puffed up in himself. When the king asked, what should be done to someone who the king want to honor? Haman thought, hey, you got to be me. Says what I'm going to tell the king to do the most splendid thing possible. He had no idea that the king might possibly be referring to somebody else. Read. Verse 7.
Gone. And Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delighteth to honor, let the royal apparel be brought, which the king useth to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head.
Look at that. He basically wants everything. He wants like he want to be king. He wants the king royal apparel. He wants the king's horse. He wants the king's crown. Basically, he want to be king. He didn't even say, put me. He didn't want to put me in a circle or give me another promotion. No, he want to be. Basically, he want to be the king. He want the same honor that's reserved for the king.
He said, "Take off your crown and put it on that man." He was thinking of himself. That's how you know it's Esau.
Exactly.
You don't change.
Read on.
And Haman answered the king, "For the man whom the king delighteth to honor, let the royal apparel be brought, which the king useth to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head. And let his apparel and his horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man withal whom the king delighteth to honor, and bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighteth to honor."
Right. So this Haman was thinking of all the most glorious thing that can be stored up in someone. Understand that this man be promoted and give him respect and honor through your kingdom. To the highest level. Read.
Then the king said to Haman, "Make haste and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew that sitteth at the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken."
Can you imagine how this guy felt now, Haman? When the king said, "Make haste. All those things that you said should be done to the man that I honor the most, that should get the highest honor. Make haste and do all that to this Mordecai. The same Mordecai that this Haman had despised and was plotting to kill and hang on a gallows." Can you believe this guy? His countenance, his heart just sank. His countenance probably definitely fell, man. So what? Read. Verse 11.
Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, "Thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor."
Right. So, you know what? All right. Get the Apocrypha real quick. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5. Just read it real quick. You know, when someone is plotting your demise, or they were looking for your downfall, they're going to marvel the CIA. Just like the plotting our demise and looking forward to our downfall, they're going to marvel to see how the Most High has other plans for us, man. Read it real quick.
Matthew chapter 5.
Wisdom of Solomon 5:1.
5:1?
Yeah.
The Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 1. Then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him.
Right. That's how we're going to stand in great boldness in front of the face of those who have sought to afflict us, our enemies, so-called white men and all the other nations. Read.
And made no account of his labors. When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear, and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation.
Right. Just that this Haman was amazed at the strangeness of the honor and glory that the Most High was putting on Mordecai. Just like they're going to be amazed at the glory and honor that the Most High has reserved for our people. Understand? When the more on Mashiach Yahushua decided to promote us and put crowns upon our heads. Read.
So far beyond all that they look for.
So far beyond all that they look for. Because they look at us as what? Niggers, speaks, wetbacks, derogatory, all this. The least. Not worthy of anything of honor. Yeah, so that's exactly what's happening right now. Right now with Mordecai in front of Haman, his enemy. Read.
And they repenting and groaning for anguish of spirit shall say within themselves, this was he whom we had sometimes in derision and a proverb of reproach. We fools accounted his life madness, and to his end to be without honor. How is he numbered among the children of the Most High, and his lot is among the saints.
Right. That's what they're gonna that's what they're gonna think and say regarding us when they're saying the Most High elevating us to a higher status. You know what I'm saying? Because they were perceiving us to be nothing. And they're saying they're gonna see you in the fact we were the chosen people of the Most High. Now go back to Esther real quick. Wrap it up.
The book of Esther, chapter 6, verse 12. And Mordecai came again to the king's gate, but Haman hastened to his house mourning, and having his head covered. And Haman told Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh, his wife, unto him, if Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shalt surely fall before him. And while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains, and hastened to bring Haman onto the banquet that Esther had prepared.
So this guy Haman was so disappointed, man, but yeah, he went run home, told his wife what happened, or Mordecai got the promotion that he thought he was going to get. And his wife said, hey, if this guy's a Hebrew Israelite, the Jews that you were planning to kill, you're not going to prevail against him. No, this guy's no, you got the power that you thought you were going to get. So you can't stop him now. You're in trouble now. So no, he was summoned to the banquet that Esther had prepared. Now jump to chapter 7.
Chapter 7. So the king and Haman came to banquet with Esther the queen. And the king said again unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine, what is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? And it shall be performed, even to the half of the kingdom. Then Esther the queen answered and said, if I have found favor in thy sight, O king, if it please the king, let my life be given me at a petition, and my people at my request. For we are sown, and I and my people to be destroyed, to be slain and perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I had held my tongue. Although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage. Then the king Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen, who is he? Where is he that durst presume in this, in his heart to do so? And Esther said, the adversary and enemy is his wicked Haman. Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. And the king, arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the palace garden. And Haman stood up to make a request for his life to Esther the queen. For he saw that there was great evil, there was evil determined against him by the king. Then the king returned out of the palace garden into the place of the banquet of wine. And Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was. Then said the king, will he force the queen also before me in the house?
Right. So Esther made it known to the king, and was plotting against him. There was this Haman, this wicked Haman. Haman was very nervous now, realized, hey, that the fortune that he thought that he had was now misfortune, and his life was in great danger. So it was now basically about already to bow down to Queen Esther to beg for his life. And when the king left the room, this guy basically fell up on the bed where Esther was. On the king, hey, what are you trying to do? Rape my wife? On top of plotting to kill the people, now you're planning to rape my wife? So basically, Ahasuerus, Xerxes the first here, he does a totally different perception of Haman now. Anything Haman does, he does does a total vexation to his spirit. Read.
As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face, and Habonah, one of the chamberlains, said before the king, "Behold, also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who has spoken good for the king, standeth in the house of Haman." Then the king said, "Hang him thereon." So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified. And on that day, chapter 8, on that day...
So basically now, there was a total turn of the tables. What the plot that Haman had for Mordecai and the Hebrew Israelites, got turned against him. Mordecai was hanged on the same gallows that he had prepared for. Haman got hanged on the same gallows that he was prepared for Mordecai. Read on.
Chapter 8. On that day did the king Ahasuerus give the house of Haman the Jews enemy unto the Esther the queen. And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was unto her. And the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. And Esther spake yet again before the king, and fell down at his feet, and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman the Agagite, and his device that he had devised against the Jews.
Right, so now basically, King Ahasuerus promoted Mordecai to the position that Haman was in. He had basically took Haman's position. Right, and Esther revealed to her husband, the king, who Mordecai was, that he was her guardian, her elder cousin, who was raising her. Since her parents had died. And now, so now the king goes on a jump. Go on now. Jump to verse 11.
Verse 11. Wherein the king granted the Jews which were in every city to gather themselves together and to stand for their life, to destroy, to slay, and to cause to perish all the power of the people and the province that would assault them, both little ones and women, and to take the spoil of them for a prey. Upon one day in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, namely upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar.
Right, the 13th day of the 12th month, the month Adar. That's the first day of Purim. Read on.
The copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, and that the Jews should be ready against that day to avenge themselves on their enemies.
Right. So now the Jews are planning. Letters were sent out to all the Jews to all the provinces. You're going to rise up, stand up, to defend yourself. They were plotting to destroy you. So now you have the right, as per the permission of the king, to rise up against the Edomites and anyone who is plotting to destroy you. Now jump to verse chapter 9. Let's wrap it up real fast.
Chapter 9. Now in the 12th month, that is, the month Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put in execution, and the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them. Though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had rule over them, that hated them. The Jews gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus, to lay hand on such as sought their hurt, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon all people. And all the rulers of the provinces, and the lieutenants, and the deputies and officers of the king helped the Jews, because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them. For Mordecai was great in the king's house, and his fame went out throughout all the provinces. For this man Mordecai waxed greater and greater. Thus the Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, and slaughter and destruction, and did what they would unto those that hated them.
Right. So that's So on the day that they were planned, they had planned to bring this demise of our people, the Jews, throughout the provinces of the Persian Medes under King Ahasuerus, Xerxes the first. The tables got turned when the king discovered that it is Mordecai who was worthy of this honor, and now Mordecai was in a great prominence as per the blessing as the spirit of the Most High. Understand? So that decree was sent now to the Jews throughout all these provinces to rise up and defend yourself, which they did, because the fear fell upon all the people when they realized as Mordecai is the second in command of the king, he had the permission of the king. Understand? It was in high status now with the king. So they slaughtered all these the Edomites throughout the provinces. Now jump to chapter 10. So that's basically this the 13th day of the month Adar, which is the 12th month. That's how Purim came. We acknowledge that day now as a day of celebration, and from year to year, we would send our people send gifts to one another. Understand? Send gifts to one another to acknowledge and commemorate this day when we avenge our enemies. Understand? As per the spirit of the Most High, to protect us. Because the Most High always has a sanctuary, a little sanctuary in Israel, wherever we are, even though we are under the enemies, man. The Most High never neglect Israel. Now jump to chapter 10 and read those 3 verses.
The book of Esther, chapter 10, verse 1. And the king Ahasuerus laid a tribute upon the land and upon the isles of the sea, and all the acts of his power and of his might, and the declaration of the greatness of Mordecai, whereunto the king advanced him. Are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Media, and Persia? For Mordecai the Jew was next unto King Ahasuerus, and great among the Jews, and accepted of the multitude of his brethren, seeking the wealth of his people, and speaking peace to all his seed.
And that concludes today's service. Basically, we just went into the historical perspective of how we went into the land of Persia, what preceded it, and what kings and the Most High use to fulfill his prophecies. Basically, Cyrus the first, and then later on Cyrus the Great, and how these different nations, man, whenever they get the chance, always plotting our demise. So never trust his enemies, no matter how peaceful they seem to be with you. Always be in the P's and Q's, always be suspicious of them. And I said they're always looking for a demise, but if you hold fast and keep the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments, he's going to reverse our misfortune and they're gonna just see us elevating as per the Most High. So that concludes that to this service. To order by Shamash Gawashai, to order the Most High by Shamash Gawashai. To those listening, live stream, YouTube, online, wherever. And don't forget tomorrow. I don't want to pull out. Don't forget tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern time, we have the Sabbath service. Tune in another day. Shalom Yasharala. I'm Adim Wapandia Yerushalayim, stand and face Jerusalem.